So to demonstrate some of the changes, what I'd like to do is read you a list of words. And when I'm done reading the list, I want you guys to write down as many of the words as you can remember. Okay? Everyone got some paper? All right. So let's say you're coming into our study or into our clinic, and we are testing your memory. So I'm going to give you the word list. Here it is. Raisin, crocus, table, pineapple, rose, sweater, bed, hat, orange, lily, sock, lamp. Now write down as many of those words as you can. Looks like a few of you are still thinking. Okay, so did anyone notice anything about that word list? Okay, so you started to make connections between the words. So that was a strategy that you used, trying to connect the words together? Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind. So Donnie used this connection strategy, like maybe telling like a story or something to connect the words together, or okay, so you tried to do a visual picture and kind of group some of the things. Okay, you put them in a fictitious house. Okay, because there are a lot of things that could be in a house. Okay, good. Anyone group them in terms of categories? Like, okay, so Chris, like flowers, or what else do I have in there?
Socks and sweaters.
Okay, so clothing. Okay, good. All right, so one of the things that we see with those types of word lists is that older adults usually perform less efficiently than younger adults. And some of the reasons for this is that they don't apply as many effortful or strategic processes as younger adults do when they're learning these word lists. So we saw examples of all of these. So a number of you organized the information. Some of you organized it by category. Other of you organized it in a picture or in a house. It sounds like some of you, not a specific mnemonic, but kind of linking information together is a type of mnemonic. And then processing the information more deeply. So picturing it in addition to like hearing the word is a way of more deeply processing information. And so a lot of you just automatically applied these strategies. As people get older, for some reason, they don't seem to apply these strategies the same way that younger adults do. If you instruct them to apply these strategies, then they typically can improve their performance, but it's still not quite to the level of what younger adults do. So part of that difference may be that younger adults develop these strategies to better organize information, and perhaps it's not that older adults can't completely do that, but there may be some things that make it more difficult for them to do that. So the slowing in processing speed or that more limited attentional capacity, that working memory, may make it harder for them to kind of reorganize information the same way that you guys are doing, or that divided attention difficulties. Okay, here's another memory task for you guys. Write down the names of the 7 dwarfs. Okay, so now I'm checking your retrieval from memory, right? You got to go in and dig out those 7 drawers. Some of you have already given up. You obviously don't watch Disney then. All right, well, hopefully some of you have gotten a few. Okay, so this is what we call a recall task. I'm not giving you any hints. I'm saying take what I'm asking you, go into your memory and try and pull out the names of these 7 dwarfs. Okay, now I can support your ability to remember that information by giving you some sort of cues. Okay, so now I'm going to cue you with the first letter of each of the dwarfs' names. Okay, so look at that and see if you can come up with any more of those dwarfs. And when we cue people, we're trying to kind of help them better retrieve that information out of memory. Okay, so that's one type of retrieval cue. Here's another type of retrieval cue. So here's a picture of those 7 dwarfs. See if that helps pull out any more dwarfs for some people. Now we've got some people saying, no, I'm done. Okay. All right, well, how about this? This is a recognition test. Okay, now I'm giving you even more support. I'm giving you the names of the 7 dwarfs within a bunch of other names. Okay, so now can you find those 7 dwarfs? So you can see at each stage here, I'm giving you more and more support to help your retrieval from memory. Of course, if you've never learned the 7 dwarfs or never even heard of the 7 dwarfs, this is not going to help, right? But if you had, hopefully this would cue your memory quite a bit more, but you would have to make sure that you're not cueing some distractors, right? So you have to ignore the right ones. So does anyone have all the 7 dwarfs? Okay, we've got a winner back here. Lisa, go ahead.
Maureen and I both got it, but
Okay.
Jokey, sleepy, happy, sneezy, doc, grumpy, bashful.
Yes. Okay, those are the 7 dwarfs for those of you who may not know your 7 dwarfs. Okay, so the point of all of that was to show you a little bit about age differences in retrieval. So when we ask older adults just to recall information and we don't give them any sort of retrieval cues, that's where we see the biggest differences between our older and younger adults. So if I just said, give me the names of the 7 dwarfs, okay? That's the type of condition where we see the biggest differences. As we provide more support to the older adults, we see those age-related decrements decreasing. So if we give cues, and these cues presumably help better organize and help the person go in and retrieve the information in a more organized ways, we see the older adults benefiting and decreasing or even eliminating some of those age-related differences that we may see in the recall task. And then the recognition task, these are the least effortful, and we usually don't see differences between our older and younger adults in those recognition task situations. If we do, they're very, very small differences. Okay. Now, that type of memory that I've been talking about is really memory that requires you to consciously go in and think about and effortfully kind of retrieve, organize, and pull out that information. There are other ways that we can test memory that are more implicit. So we're testing memory and you're not even aware that we're testing your memory abilities. But we are able to get at whether you have learned some information. So even though you're not consciously aware of it, you may have shown some learning. And this is one way that we can do this. These are called implicit memory tasks. So I'm going to show you some words, and I just want you to rate on a scale from 1 to 5 in your mind, with 1 being you don't like and 5 being you like these different words that I'm going to present to you. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 different ways of collecting information. And I just want you, for each of them, one is kind of like fill in and figure out what the word is, and the other is the first 3 letters, and you just have to say the first word that comes to mind. Okay, so you can try this yourself. Quickly fill in those word fragments. And here, give the first word that comes to mind. Okay, so how many of you found it easier to fill these 2 words in than this word? Okay, And how many of you produce panda for this word? Okay, so this is a way that we can test. You're kind of primed for this information. You're learning at some level of this information because you produced it over here. Now, if we gave an older adult this sort of implicit learning test, they perform very similar to the younger adults. But if we changed it around and we said, now we want you to consciously recall items that we gave you that were on the list and use those items in producing these word stems, it becomes more difficult then for the older adults when they have to rely on that conscious recollection of information. Make sense to everyone? Okay. Okay, so how might we lessen some of these age-related memory effects, and then what are those implications for designing our technologies? Lisa.
As you're like going alongside an app, making sure that if there's a file path in your computer, you know how you got where you got because you can see how you got there. Having something similar to that in technology that you're designing so they know the steps they took to get there.
Okay, so making it very clear for them to be able to retrace their steps and know how they're getting where they're getting. Okay, good. Other thoughts? Support is good, right? Because if they have to do pure recall of information, that's going to be more difficult than if we give them some cues or actually have the information available for them so that they don't have to be doing as much retrieval. Okay. Other sorts of thoughts?
Minimize the number of different screens the user has to go through.
Okay, good. So again, anytime we can minimize and simplify and reduce kind of that load on memory, and certainly we want to kind of avoid having to do too much multitasking or having to hold too many different things in memory at one time. That's going to make it more difficult for an older adult. And if it's more difficult, then your article talks about kind of the perceived use and ease of use, right? Like if an older adult starts to use something and it's too difficult, it's not easy to use, that's going to be something that's going to probably fail much more quickly than something that is much more intuitive and easier and doesn't put as much on their attentional capacity or their memory capacity. So we all, seeing how these changes in cognition really need to be thought about when we're thinking about that design of our technology for our older adult population. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
You said we want to make our application very simple and be minimalist when we design an application. My question is, if instead of making our application colorful, we just be monotonic, it's going to help or has a positive effect or negative effect?
I don't know that I can completely answer that question, but certainly there is some data to suggest that that monotonic contrast is actually really very helpful. And in fact, in the digital memory notebook, some of the principles that we went by said use color sparingly. So again, that contrast and not having so many different things that can distract a person's attention may be a good thing. Now that may not always be the case, and that's why we do that iterative design development, right? And I think that's another important thing to be taking from this, that these principles can give you a starting place, but then you need to work with the user in the design process. Because one of the things for us, we know that blues are kind of a difficult color for older adults to see, but in our first colors that we gave older adults for the buttons, they preferred our blue button over our red button. So, again, it may be the situation, and as long as there's the contrast and being able to see it, it may not matter because they're not having to pick out a blue from a green, for example, where it becomes much more difficult to do. Okay, so I wanted to end by showing you guys the memory video so that you can see some of the assistive technologies that are out there that can assist people with their memory difficulties. Independent living for older adults. Now I just need to forward it if I can get
I'm
one
Dr.
here.
Maureen Schmitter-Edgecombe, a professor in the Department of Psychology at Washington State University. Welcome to the Aging Assistive Technology video series on independent living. Locators.
Okay, here we go.
Picture-based phones allow for easy dialing without having to remember or look up phone numbers. Simply push a picture of friends, stores, or emergency numbers. For misplaced items, object finders are an easy solution. Simply attach a finder to important objects that are easily lost, such as keys, a wallet, or an eyeglass case. Use the main locator to find objects when needed. Some object finders can locate many different items. Smartphone apps are also available. Some use GPS technology to locate the item and provide the approximate address of the object. Reminders. To help with reminders, customized voice messages can be played at set times.
It's time to lock the door before bed.
Remote speakers are available so the reminders can be heard throughout the house. Portable, pocket-sized personal reminders are also available. Electronic calendars can play customized messages
Today, Tuesday, September 24th, 1 message.
about medication,
You have an appointment with Dr. Thompson at 1 p.m.
appointments, family events, or other daily needs. Messages can be recorded for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly reminders. Web-based reminder systems
It's time to pick up the trash for Monday morning pickup.
can provide verbal reminders by phone. These services can give an unlimited amount of reminders, including wake-up calls, reminders of important events, and even when to take medication. Recurring calls and snooze features are also available with these systems. A daily planner paired with a watch alarm can be an effective and low-tech memory aid. Maintain doctor's appointments, birthdays, and grocery lists all in one location. Make using a daily planner part of your everyday routine.
One of the things that I've found is very helpful for me is I have like a little journal, or what we call a memory notebook. I use that to record appointments, things I need to do, phone calls maybe that I've received, a little, to remind me about, so I don't forget them. And I appreciate, every little bit of help to keep my memory as sharp as I would like it to be. And so I'm very pleased that these things are available to me.
Smartphones, tablets, and computers can also function as personal information managers. Through text and speech, these devices can provide reminders for appointments, medication schedules, and family events. A wearable camera automatically captures everyday life events that can be reviewed at the end of the day. The camera function on cell phones can also be used to capture pictures of important everyday events or information. Recording devices. Record and store lists, important conversations, and physician advice.
You want to take it 4 times a day.
Okay, now does this need to be with food, or does it?
Doesn't matter. Just
Doesn't-
every 4 hours.
On portable audio recorders. Some devices easily attach to your keys Others can organize messages into categories, including notes, groceries, and family. Smart pens can capture sound and written information at the same time.
Okay, if we're gonna have meatloaf, I know I need some onions and some burger.
Linking notes with the spoken words in a single recording to review later.
And I think I need some burger. Don't forget to pick up the cleaners. And get
Safety aids.
Okay, I think we'll stop there. Did anyone see any memory aids that they thought they might actually enjoy using? Okay, what do you see, Bayu?
The key checking.
The key locator?
Yeah, key locator.
Yeah, that's probably the most popular one when people see this. They're like, oh, I want one of those key locators. The smart pen is actually something that's starting to be recommended more in terms of use with college students who might be struggling in getting all the information at once, because you can actually then go back and put the pen where you were in your notes, and then it will tell you, you can hear a recording of what was happening at that time when you were recording those notes. So smart pens are being used more generally now, not just to help with memory impairments.